TinaTin. I'm one of the co-founders of Tbilisi Architecture Biennial, where I also originally come from, Tbilisi, Georgia. And I'm based between Berlin and Tbilisi, and in Berlin I'm also working with a local NGO and doing different international projects connected with urban topics. So today I will tell you about my experience of working as a cultural worker in the city and in urban space, and we'll tell you about the festival that we have founded, and this year we're already organizing the third edition of the festival. So the story goes back to 2017, where we have 4 colleagues and friends. We have founded Tbilisi Architecture Biennial and managed to organize the first edition in 2018. Our aim to establish this kind of festival was connected with existing urban problematic in the city of Tbilisi, and lack of critical discourse about the problems and about the topics. And we found it necessary to establish a platform where we would gather different voices and present them during our biennial event. So this was our main idea. We were like 4 independent people who have established this organization. And at the beginning, during our first edition in 2018, we decided not to organize the event in the city center, where majority of the cultural events are happening anyways. Rather, we decided deliberately to move the event to the farther periphery of Tbilisi, in a Gldani neighborhood. So the neighborhood where we decided to organize the festival is located in the northeastern part of Tbilisi. It's also considered as a micro-city inside the city. It has been built during the end of 70s and beginning of 80s as a Soviet large housing estate, mass housing neighborhood, which was a typical residential area for the former Soviet cities. Our idea about the topic was connected with the neighborhood and especially with the informalities that we we are dealing with everyday life of urban sphere and also architecture. And we decided to explore this phenomenon that has been happening in the neighborhood and in the city since the breakup of the Soviet Union. So what we have called our first edition "Buildings Are Not Enough," which was exactly addressing this topic of informalities, and we decided to explore everything that was connected with it. Starting point, we started talking about this informal transformation and appropriation of public space and architecture in Tbilisi, but we opened our topic to include more global issues like informal housing, refugee crisis, etc. So our event from the beginning was really international. We had a lot of international guests. And we kind of also chose some specific location in the neighborhood where we organizing exhibition and installations in the main like infrastructural axis of the neighborhood. And it was not concentrated in one space, rather there was a kind of platform inside the neighborhood that the different installations and projects were presented. So we had different projects like exhibitions, installations outside. We had a symposium, we had a film screening, we had workshops, and altogether it lasted 2 weeks, a very intensive 2 weeks of different events. It's also important to mention that we managed to interact with the local dwellers, local residents of the neighborhood, while realizing the installations and also the process of like aftermath process of the installations. Many of our installations were merging inside the built environment, and actually sometimes it was even hard to notice that there is some kind of installation present in the neighborhood, and some of them actually stayed. We didn't dismantle them because before the biennial was over, the residents already started using them. And also some installations got stolen. So, for example, one installation that were different kind of typical chairs made by a Turkish artist, Onur Çeritoglu, it got almost stolen. But actually this was also something that also found it really interesting in the process of making this installation and how we actually connected with the neighbors there. And we were actually glad that they could use the parts of our installations for their own use. Another important exhibition that I would like to mention was one of the curators who actually lives in this neighborhood. She managed to organize an exhibition inside of some of the apartments of her neighbors, and some artists have created artworks inside the apartments that was for 2 days, for several hours, open to the public. And this was something really, really interesting to be able to enter in the private sphere and private apartments of the dwellers. Another exhibition maybe to be mentioned was by a Polish artist who created a typical apartment of this neighborhood. She recreated it in a public sphere, and she has also collected different furniture from the neighbors, and she created this kind of public space as an apartment. And actually this was the installation that most of it got stolen, or the parts that were built actually stayed because the residents started using them already before it was dismantled. So this was about the first edition. It was like the very first step to start to test how we could actually organize this kind of event in the city, and to see how the audience would accept this, and also if we could really continue. And we were like, it was not so easy to involve the local audience because it was something really new, and we also were not acting as like typical architects, but rather we were merging this event in more interdisciplinary way. There were many artistic works involved as well, and it was not so obvious that this is architecture in this term of classical architecture. But we moved forward. We finished the project, and actually I have to mention here that our main donor has been from the beginning Creative Europe, and for this project specifically we have created different projects with our international partners. So this was actually the first time we have encountered the common, like we collaborated with Ukrainian partners in Ivano-Frankivsk, and as a part of the project in 2019, we went as a team of Tbilisi Architecture Biennial to the Ivano-Frankivsk and participated in the local festival of city scanning session and created an installation there. So this was our first connection with Ukraine, and it continued throughout the years, and it merged into the second project that we realized in 2020. So we chose, before actually pandemic started, we were already preparing our topic and our event, and we had chosen a topic about commons and what do we have in common. And actually when the pandemic started, then we realized that actually we found out the answer to this question. We found out suddenly that it doesn't matter in which part of the world you are, what your social status is, what's your profession is, like there is something that we all have in common, and this is this virus that kind of also united us. And we have also observed that one event after another were been postponed or cancelled, and we chose not to cancel our event and realized it because we also understood that this might be a one-time event that we could organize during the pandemic. So we actually, instead of seeing it as a problem, we took it as a challenge, and we made an interesting setting out of this whole pandemic situation. So what we created, our main location became our website. We constructed a virtual tower on our website, and we located different projects on different stories of our virtual building. We made an open call where we also had different categories like digital projects and physical projects as well. And we facilitated the participation from any part of the world, because we gave the opportunity to the participants to realize their own work in their own locations. So as the travel was really difficult, we had our own projects in Tbilisi, but we also had many projects in outside of Georgia. For example, we had a very big representation in Ukraine in 3 different cities. So we had pavilion in Kiev, in Pavilion of Culture, in this modernistic building. We had pavilion also in Dnipro, and also in Ivano-Frankivsk with our local partners, MetaLab. A lot of projects that were also coming from Ukraine itself, but also international, that were shown there. And we had also another installation in Milan. We had some project also in Poland, in Germany, in Slovenia, etc. So actually the setting of pandemic and making everything semi-digital give us opportunity to involve even more people from all over the world. So actually we one thing that was obligatory for everything, depending on if it was an offline exhibition or installation or an online event, everything had to be linked to our digital tower. So we had everything broadcasted live, which is saved, and our website and the digital tower became an archive of about 70 projects, actually. So it's really nice to go back to the web page and explore all the projects that have been realized during this period. Also, I would like to mention the situation now, because we're entering now in a year where we are hosting our third edition of the Tbilisi Architecture Biennial in Tbilisi. This time we decided to do it offline and create the physical projects in Georgia, but we left this opportunity to participate digitally as well, and also create some digital projects. And it's very important also to mention our experience with the topics, how we choose the topics, because it's a main team of 4 people who kind of develop a topic and then make an open call, and every person who becomes a participant, the winners of the open call, they become curators of their own projects that they are realizing. And this way we also try to involve the people and don't create a hierarchy of one main curatorial team that directs the whole setting of the whole event. And the topics that we were choosing, from the beginning, it was informality, then we went to commons, and actually each topic is dictating us what can be the next. So this topic that we chose this year, for example, it's about temporalities, it's about temporary spaces, temporary situations, temporary settings. We called it What's Next. So actually this is representing our realities, especially in the post-socialist cities and countries, that we are always expecting anything from tomorrow, because we have been experiencing and we've been living in different conditions, like wars or food shortages, for example, or shortages of resources. So this is nothing new to us. And before the war in Ukraine started, this year we already had this topic chosen, and it really fits really well to this current situation, because this is also our question of general question of, okay, what will come the next? So this time we chose several locations inside of Tbilisi. It will be again not concentrated in one spot, one main location, but rather there will be several locations that we find relevant for the topic, and we will publish an open call very soon, where we also suggest these locations as possible locations for the installations. And this is something also that has developed throughout the years, that we are not connected to one building or one location where we always organize the festival, but rather we try to intervene in different parts of the city. Also, there are always this critical question that we've been asked, how can we influence the neighborhoods or the places where we kind of create the installations or exhibitions, and how much involvement of the locals is in this process. So with our event, we actually don't have this ambition of changing something really quickly or intervening in the neighborhood in order to make a new space. Rather, we think that this kind of event or festival, it brings it can initiate a process that can bring a change. But for us, it's also very important to involve students, for example, that are also helping us as volunteers, but we see throughout the years that they become also participants of the biennial, and this is really something that is positive in this whole process. So we also try to address and involve young creatives and students in the process of creating this festival. So I think that this is something also that offers, like we became a platform that also offers local students some alternative setting outside of their universities or art academies, where they can kind of experience architecture or art or some interdisciplinary processes. So this is us. This is how we came till now, and we will continue our work till we can, till it's possible to continue, till we'll have enough resources and possibilities to work. Yes, so it's like this process of making this festival, it's really interesting also to observe, and we are continuing our work till we can, and till there will be the possibility to work. We kind of stay also local, because there are a lot of problems that we need to address in Tbilisi, but at the same time these local problems are also global, and that's why we became actually, or we established ourselves as an international festival. And this is also something that actually enriches our whole event, to hear about the same problems from somewhere else. Of course, the working during this period, during the war, it's really hard for us, because we identify ourselves with the war directly. We think also that this is our war, and of course this was also a question at the beginning, like, should we do this event this year, should we cancel it? But again, we decided to still do it, because we find it really important exactly during this period to realize this kind of events, and to address the critical topics during the festival itself, and involve our Ukrainian partners, and also realize some projects in Ukraine as well. So this is like what I have told you, all the work that we do, how we interact with Tbilisi, how we interact with the urban space, and how we work with locals, how we work with international partners. And we're always open for collaborations and ideas, and we would like to invite everyone to participate in our open call, and we'll be glad to collaborate in future. So thank you so much for listening to our story, and hopefully we meet in Tbilisi soon.